With me today is Dr. Ernie Mario and Mr. Bob Ingram, veterans in the pharmaceutical industry, highly respected and admired, who have extensive expertise in this particular field. And they have actually invested or directed investments in Clinipace worldwide, which is one of the fastest growing CROs in the country. Clinipace has positioned itself as an innovative leader in the area of developing technology-enabled drug development processes, which brings real solutions to the life science industry. That, in fact, has set it apart from other CROs, being the first digital CRO in the United States. I'm here today with Mr. Bob Ingram and Dr. Ernie Mario. Both are veterans in the pharmaceutical industry as former CEOs, and they sit on a variety of corporate boards. And we're here to discuss the future of the drug development and pharmaceutical industry, as well as to talk about their investment in Clinipace worldwide, why they chose Clinipace as an investment, and what they're looking for in terms of a vision for the future. Clinipace has positioned itself as an innovative leader in the area of developing technology-enabled drug development processes that bring real solutions to the industry. And it sets it apart from other CROs by being the first digital CRO in the United States. Clinipace has positioned itself on the innovation front. Clinipace has positioned itself on the innovation front. Clinipace has positioned itself as an innovator. That we're sitting in RTP, North Carolina, the epicenter of the CRO industry. There have been many changes over the past decade in terms of the way R&D is done. Talk a little bit about what concerns you about what's happening in the industry.
You know, when Ernie brought me to Glaxo, Glaxo was a company like most big companies that was built on blockbuster success. I see is an industry that is today moving away from that dependence on one or two blockbusters to looking at oftentimes more specialized diseases with lower patient populations, to more of a diversified model where you're wanting to have what I'll call several mid-rises versus one skyscraper. We've done well as an industry in providing good answers to big diseases, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, AIDS, but the opportunity and challenge is to create even better, greater medicines for subsets of those big diseases.
What's happened is that the big pharma companies have come to the realization that they don't have all the smart people in the world. These little greenhouses, as I call them,
very good.
Work and focus on a segment, a slice of the business, which then the big pharma guy says, okay, when you're ready and I like your data, whether you're in phase 1, 2, 3, I'll acquire that. And I don't have to build it inside by myself.
Some new trends that are emerging are clearly to really identify the patients who are going to respond and given clinical trials. So in the past, if it was a drug for congestive heart failure, one would study all patients with congestive heart failure. Now it's more targeted, so more targeted therapy, whether that be in oncology, cardiovascular, pulmonary, and that requires a much more complex understanding of who will respond from either a genetic perspective or from a biomarker perspective. So it makes clinical research more complicated and more focused, and having the technology that Clinipace has as its fingertips can be a big advantage to facilitating a highly efficient clinical development project. The CRO industry employs more clinical research staff than the pharmaceutical industry.
That's a
and
big
that's
change.
a big sea change.
Yep.
So you really watched the large CROs develop from the very beginning.
Yep.
And you've served on boards of some of those large CROs.
Yeah, well, you were on the board of Quintiles. I was on the board of PPD for many years. Yeah.
And yet you made an investment or directed investments in a very small CRO a few years ago, Clinipace.
Yep.
So what did you see at that time, in the very beginning, that really piqued your interest and led you to believe that relative to these large CROs that were already existing in the area, Clinipace could be successful? Clinipace is a unique type of CRO that uses technology in an amplified way in order to streamline and make more efficient the clinical research process. And that provides a real benefit to the mid-tier venture-backed companies as well as strategic biopharmaceutical, biotech, and medical device firms. Utilizing a technology-amplified approach as the base, it allows companies to be more interactive with the CRO and to see their data more readily and therefore make the entire process more efficient. So from beginning to end, the process can be more transparent and can move more quickly through the standard process. Clinipace is unique in that it has built highly innovative technology that serves as the core of its business, and then people have been added on to the process to make it even more efficient. In contrast to the larger, more traditional CROs that had large numbers of people and then added technology on the top. Their systems are somewhat old and archaic, and the Clinipace system is much more innovative and nimble, allowing for a more efficient clinical research and overall drug development process.
The clients always want the A team. They always want your best people, as they should. So you have giant companies like GSK, like Pfizer, like others. But you still have a very healthy mid-tier group of companies that may not be as big. You also have emerging, growing biotech companies. I mean, these companies rightfully want the best as well. What we see with Clinipace is absolutely as good a quality as anybody in the industry, fitting that niche need of the mid-tier company that wants the best, but wants nimbleness, wants flexibility, and quality in data management. And I think all of that says that Clinipace is going to be a very successful company.
Mid-tier biotech companies who are highly innovative see the value of a technology-amplified system.
Right.
And that's who a lot of the customers are for Clinipace today, and that's only going to continue. And in some cases, those smaller companies have been acquired, and those bigger companies have decided to continue to work with Clinipace.
And it's
As an early stage investor, I cannot tell you how important it is for those really young companies that only have a few employees to find the right kind of CRO to work with to help them set up and initiate their trials. Most importantly, to be able to feel like they work with a team that is giving them 100% of their time and dedication. This is in contrast to a large CRO in which a small company can get lost in the shuffle with all the big clients. As an early stage investor, I cannot tell you how important it is to find the right CRO to work with the small startup companies that are usually fairly virtual. In the case of large CROs, a small client feels lost in the shuffle and not being able to interact with their team on a day-to-day basis. In contrast, Clinipace becomes incorporated into your overall team and becomes part of a process such that you're working hand in glove together to facilitate the process. I found Clinipace to be extremely nimble, smart, innovative, and responsive to small clients.
This mid-tier section of the industry that oftentimes doesn't get the A-team from the big players.
Right.
But I think coming back to another, I think, key element here for the success of Clinipace going forward is the continuing increasing demand of that mid-tier sector and growing young companies, particularly in biotech, that want high quality data management. They want to feel like they have the A-team, and that's right, where a company like Clinipace really, I think, can take a leadership role.
So over the years, the evolution from in-house clinical to external companies like Clinipace have evolved. And Clinipace has a particular advantage, in my view, in that they started with the technology as opposed to maybe a PPD or a Quintiles. It means that you can be more efficient, fewer people, lower cost, better control of the data. That's one of the main reasons that we invested in Clinipace in the first place.
Well, it's about being nimble, fast, and particularly serving your clients with not only speed and in enrollment, but also quality. And we live in a technological world today And to see companies like Clinipace, which has led this technology-led, people-efficient effort, I think is a real indicator of where this industry is heading. And it's one of the reasons we at Hatteras were proud to be an early investor.
CEOs of major pharmaceutical companies and members of corporate boards, what were some of the factors that you were looking at in terms of why you thought they were unique beyond just the technology amplified approach that really led you to invest really in the early phases of the company? Well, given the great interest in orphan and rare diseases and being more targeted and focused in gathering the right patients in trials, it becomes even more incumbent on CROs to identify the sites, first of all, that could complete those trials and develop efficient processes so that that data can be captured as quickly as possible. And that's what Clinipace can bring to the table. There are many new ways of approaching clinical trials, particularly using technology, and it's critically important because we're treating or attempting to treat diseases that really matter in the lives of patients. We have to move faster, we have to be more nimble, we have to be able to work better with the FDA, and gathering the right data as quickly as possible will enable that. And Clinipace is one of the companies that can enable that solution.
You have to have execution, you have to have really excellent people. But unless you can handle that data and do it efficiently and accurately, you're not going to succeed in our business. Success of business is always about leadership.
Yep.
And it's the quality of the people that, when we invest as a family and myself personally, the first thing I look at is, who is running this operation. Clinipace has a terrific CEO, Jeff Williams. We have a lot of confidence in his ability. We like the way the board is made up. We like the folks who work with Jeff and part of his team.
And we've been impressed not only with Jeff, but with his whole team's discipline, with their understanding of what they need to deliver to their customer. And the better you add value to your customer, the better you add value to your investors.
Given the changing landscape in the pharmaceutical industry and how drug development is going to be done in the future, those companies that embrace change and utilize innovative technologies will be the winners. And that's what Clinipace can bring to the table.
Make no mistake, big CROs are constantly looking to how do they add to their service offering and how do they build out their portfolio.
Yeah.
And I think in that light, a company like Clinipace, if it continues to succeed, we'll have some interesting options to think about.
There's a strong business model. The industry is growing. Continual movement from pharma
Yep.
to the small guys. Why do you pick a particular small company, a small CRO? For the reasons
Right.
you described and I talked about. And that is that you have good people and you've got good systems. And you believe in them.
Yep.
And you believe that they can actually succeed. Over the years, the pharma industry has evolved away from doing almost 100% of their clinical trials in-house. And the reason for that was that when the CRO business was just starting, they were basically capital starved. And it was a people business. In other words, you didn't have big software operations. You didn't have the technology that we have today to allow you to handle huge numbers of data points. If you look at the industry as a whole, the CRO industry is now up in the 20-some billion dollars. And more importantly, it grows 6% a year. So you have a business model from a revenue standpoint that makes a whole lot of sense. You've got the growth at the top line. So what differentiates the Clinipaces from other CROs is the ability to take the revenue and translate it into profit, because they've got the digitization, the automation of the data, and they've got great people. Clinipace has shown that it's all about the data handling.
So they're leading with technology versus
right.
huge staff.
This market is incredibly hot.
Yeah.